is that Agile software teams are really good at building awesome race car engines. We're good at tweaking Agile. We're good at tweaking Agile software development. We got a lot of great ideas. We can, keep the engine analogy going. We can, get better fuel mileage. We can become more performant. We can speed things up. We're phenomenally good at this. So we got a bunch of really bright people optimizing software development. I think that's a very good thing, actually. But unfortunately, we take these awesome race car engines that we're building, these awesome Agile software development teams, and we put them in organizational tractors. We put them in these legacy organizations with legacy systems and legacy mindsets and legacy management and legacy governance. And we've got these awesome race car engines in these tractors, and that's a big surprise when we don't win the race.
Where does architecture fit in? Because they're still of the mindset that the architect has got to do all that stuff before anything happens.
Yeah, no, so it fits in all through the life cycle. Okay. And so one of the things we did in the workshop yesterday was we tried to answer 3 questions. Okay. The first one was, how do we do architecture at the beginning of a project or initiating a team? How do we bring architecture skills into the team? Okay. And how do we evolve the architecture over time? Okay. And what we did in the exercises was I basically gave them several options, and we compared and contrasted them. Okay. And the short story is, it depends.
We also, and it's not pure Agile either. It's more of a pragmatic, agnostic Agile, where we take great techniques from a wide range of sources, from Scrum and SAFe and Agile modeling and extreme programming and Agile data and even the PMBOK guide. I don't know if you're familiar with that at all. I am. And yeah, you've heard of it, yeah, okay. And we take, because there's some great ideas there. And what we do is we put them into context. So instead of pitching things as best practices, we instead talk about how all practices and techniques have advantages and disadvantages. They work well in some situations, and they're phenomenally bad ideas in others.
Hi everyone. We are so glad to host you here. We thank you to be with us on this beautiful summer solstice, the longest day. The sun is in the highest point in the sky, so we are ready to shine about discipline Agile, and we will learn what's going on in this discipline Agile thing from the source, from Scott Ambler, the co-creator of this thing. And today with Eren Özdemir, we will be sharing your questions. During week, you wrote us a lot of questions about what's going on and what are the exact points you want to learn. And we will today with Eren Özdemir, let's take him on board and let's start our.
Hi, Emre.
Hello, Eren. How are you?
Fine, and you? When you say we are shining with summer, and I think we are shining with our white t-shirts. So
exactly. It's maybe the sign of solstice. Yeah, exactly. So, Eren, what are we doing today?
Yeah, last week we discussed about DA mindset, discipline agile mindset. I think it was a great session for us because we start with the mindset side, and also I think it's connected with being agile, and it's connected with maybe business agility part. So I think we are very excited today because Scott Ambler will be with us. So I don't want to interrupt more, so we can directly invite him.
Okay, let's invite him.
Welcome, Scott.
Hello.
Hi, Scott. So nice to host you here today.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I'm always happy to be involved.
Yeah, we prepared some presentation for your talks. but that was great, and we are trying to find best ones. But I think that whole speak was very grateful, and many thanks to meet us with you.
Okay. So Scott, as a start, we want to know who you are and what is your goal in creating this discipline agile or facilitating this thing. Can you remind us what's going on here?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll give you a little bit of a historical background. So Discipline Agile came about from some of my work and the work of business partners, in particular Mark Lyons, when I was at IBM. And I was, for 6 years, I was the chief methodologist for IT at IBM Rational, one of their divisions. And myself, my team, and business partners, we were going around the world helping organizations to understand Agile and Lean and to apply it in a wide range of situations. And we realized that there was a need for something to help because everybody was struggling. Everybody was, the ones that were successful at it were spending a lot of time and a lot of money figuring it out. The ones that weren't so successful at it, they were still struggling. Even the ones that were successful were struggling with some aspects, right? There was always, one big issue like architecture or governance or, testing or, deployment. There's always something. So we put together what was originally called Discipline Agile Delivery, which was how do you do software development from beginning to end, all aspects of software, not just what the Scrum guys want to teach, but everything. Like how do you start a project? How do you do it? How do you deploy? How do you, how do you bring testing, architecture in, all the technical issues that some of the methodologies don't want to deal with either. So we showed how it all fits together. And we also gave people options because one of the things we observed was that everybody was doing Agile differently because there were unique people in unique situations and they had different preferences. They faced different challenges. So they all worked differently, even teams in the same organization. So one size does not fit all. So instead of having a prescriptive method like Scrum or SAFe or LESS or others, where they basically give you one way of working, instead, we focused on, well, what are the potential ways of working? What are the potential ways of thinking? And when do you apply each technique or each strategy in a certain situation, and when don't you? So we instead, in DA, we focus on instead of telling you what to do, we tell you what to think about. You need to consider these issues, and here are your options. Choose the right options best for you, because I don't know you. I don't know the situation that you're in. So telling you that, having a product owner work with user stories, that's the best practice. Everybody needs to do that. That's completely false. It's just completely false. That's a good idea in some situations and a phenomenally bad idea in others. So we really need to know how to choose, and we need to know what our options are and choose between them. And that's what DA is all about. So DA is really an extension to existing methods like SAFe or Scrum or LESS or others to fill in the blanks, to help you tailor your way of working to meet your situation. So we actually fulfill the promises of these methods. So where they tell you that they're the art of the possible and you can do you can tailor it for your situation. Yes, that's completely true, but they give you virtually no advice on how to do that other than to hire their expensive consultants. We instead give you, DA is the toolkit that you need to help you make those decisions, because you're not process experts and you never will be, and nor should you have to be. But you still need to make process-oriented decisions to have an effective way of working, and that's what DA helps you with.
So it helps us navigate through uncertainty and the way of we work. So it helps us to be more efficient, let's say, I don't know, or create value, let's say. I don't know what's the exact term for that you use.
Yeah, that's it exactly. So think of it like you're cooking. So tonight, everybody will go home and they'll cook a meal. You'll go to your pantry, to your kitchen, you'll pull ingredients off the shelf or out of the fridge, and you'll make a meal. Tomorrow, you'll do the same thing, and the day after, and the day after. It'll be the same kitchen using the same basic tools like your knives and your cutting boards and all that sort of stuff, and your pots and your pans. It'd be the same basic ingredients, but every night you'll make a different meal because you don't want to eat the same thing night after night after night. Certain for those of us with kids, they just won't go for that. So you need to have a bit of variety. You need to make the right meal for the right situation. What's the same thing with your process? My team that works on IP, we will work in a certain way. Your team that builds apps will work in a certain way that reflects you. Your marketing team will work in a certain way. Your security team will work in their own way. Your data warehousing team will work in their own way. Different teams in different situations work in different ways. And to be effective, you've got to be allowed to own your process, to choose your own way of working.
Perfect. Maybe I can ask a question in there. You said us DA is a toolkit, and in that toolkit, which practice can we use? For example, I'm a traditional company, or I'm fan of Scrum, or I'm fan of Safe. Which one can we use in that toolkit?
Yeah, all of them. So our philosophy in DA is to start where you are. So if you're currently doing Scrum, great. We can show you how to improve on Scrum. If you're doing Safe, great. We can show you how to improve that. If you're currently taking some sort of a traditional serial approach, great. We can show you how to improve on that. Because DA is a hybrid, and it's sort of misnamed, right? It's really a discipline hybrid. So we take great practice and strategies from a wide range of sources, not just Agile, not just Lean, but also traditional, and we put them into context. So, then, that way, so just like you pull ingredients off the shelf to make dinner, you will pull techniques off the shelf to make your process, to form your way of working for your team. But you need to know, but just like a cook, when you cook a meal, it's not just randomly throw 5 ingredients together and throw them in a pot and hope for the best. You got to sort of know what you're doing, right? You got to know how to combine the ingredients. You got to know how to cook chicken versus cooking tofu or whatever, and what ingredients go with what. So I'm probably not going to cook chicken and then baste it in vinegar. Might not work out well. So, and you learn these things over time, right? Or you learn how to cook. You either figure it out on your own, or a parent teaches you, or you take cooking lessons, whatever, right? You learn. Same thing with process stuff. You learn which technique, you need to learn which techniques work together. And so we put them into context, and in DA, and we say, you really need to, you need to think about this. Here are your options. You choose the right one for you in your situation. Because, once again, I don't know what situation you face. I don't know what your skills are. I can't tell you what the best practice is for you right now, because I don't know anything about you. And neither can these other methodologists, right? So everybody's spinning this concept of best practices. They're really not telling the truth.
Maybe in that part, I want to share my experience. I worked with a lot of different company, and a lot of company want to start with a team level, and then they create Scrum teams. After that, they confused about, we are using Scrum, but it's not fits with our current situation, and we want to change it with a Kanban style. So they are trying to change. We want to do maybe Scrumban. So they in team level, maybe they are trying to change their way of working. After that, they try to create more teams, but they are wondering about something went wrong. In that part, they are trying to find scaling models. They are choosing, some of them Spotify model, some of them choosing Safe framework. In that part, I think DA can help us to find our way of working with all that options. Is it right?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things we do is we help you to choose life cycles, for example, right? So, my team is in a current situation. Should I choose to go with a Scrum-based life cycle? Like, should it be a project life cycle or more of a continuous delivery life cycle because I'm more of a service team or a product team? Should I go with something like Safe because I'm really a program, like I'm a large team of teams or a very large initiative? So should I really be going with something like Less or Safe or Nexus, perhaps? Am I more of a service team? So maybe I should be going with some sort of a Kanban based thing, right? So there's a lot of decisions that you've got to make. So telling your staff, everybody do Scrum, or everybody do Kanban, or everybody do Safe, is completely naive. It observably cannot work. Like, unless you really do truly have a bunch of similar teams all in the same situation, but that's never true, right? Because you've got some projects and some teams doing not projects. You've got some teams, you can do a 2-week sprint. You got other teams, they've got to be able to respond right now. Like my help desk team, I can't do Scrum on a help desk team. That's just stupid. Can you imagine calling into your help desk and the very first thing out of their mouth says, "Well, we can schedule that for the sprint starting the first week of July." What? Right? And maybe those of you work for if you're interactive telecoms, maybe that's the way they do work. But no, I need help now, not the first week of July, or in the middle of July, because they're gonna have their 2-week sprint. So the first 2 weeks, and then they'll finally help me at the end of the sprint, right? Crazy, right? So it's simply observably not true. And there's other efforts in your organizations where a more serial approach works, right? Very low risk, straightforward things. Yeah, do serial. Why? You do like a traditional predictive approach, whatever you want to call it. Why wouldn't you, right? So different teams in different situations work in different ways. This is observably true, and this is something we've known for a long time, and yet our executives get suckered into these messages of, oh yeah, you can become an XYZ shop, like whatever your method is, right? Yeah, everybody do Safe, everybody do Scrum, everybody do Kanban. It's just naive. It's completely naive. You've got to be more flexible than that. You really do.
But in this point, there should be something common. I think Discipline Agile is defining what should be common in this sense, which is mindset, right?
Yeah.
Which is mindset. Whatever the team applies.
Mostly mindset.
Okay, let's listen it from you. Why?
Yeah. So indeed, I'm actually working on a detailed article on this very topic right now. And so for a long time, we've been communicating in DA, the DA mindset, which is a mindset for business, or for enterprise or business agility. And it's an extension. It's basically a replacement of the Agile Manifesto, and gets down to it. So a few years ago, a bunch of us got together and we basically observed that the manifesto was, incredibly out of date. I mean, it's great. Don't get me wrong. Like the Agile Manifesto is a beautiful thing, but it was written 21 years ago to address the problems of software development teams 21 years ago. Those problems are mostly solved. Like if you step back and read the manifesto today, it's embarrassingly out of date. Like it talks about delivering in terms of weeks or months. I'd be ashamed to be working that slowly. It should be talking in terms of hours, not weeks. So things like that, right? So but it reflected the reality of the time. So it was wonderful. But it only reflected software development. It didn't reflect the enterprise. So anyways, make a long story short, we've learned a few things in the last 2 decades. We've also expanded the scope. So we realized, instead of being held back by the Agile Manifesto, why don't we just redo it? And why don't we just say, knowing what we know now, knowing that we've got a bigger scope, knowing that our real scope is enterprise agility, not software team agility, how do we describe it? So then that's how we came up with the original Discipline Agile Manifesto, which is a collection of promises, or principles, promises, and guidelines. Now, what we've also done since then is so the basic idea with this is that this is what we hope to be the shared mindset across the organization. But that's not completely realistic. And the reason why, so it's realistic that we should have a shared mindset, but it's not sufficient is the issue. And this is observably true. And this is coming from the guy that led the development of this. And this is observably true of the Agile Manifesto as well, regardless of all the rhetoric around it. The fact is that you could step back, which is what we did. I'm a firm believer in observing, right? So we step back, and it's very easy to observe that when you get a group of different people together, they come to the table with different mindsets. So for example, a software developer has a very different mindset than a finance person. A finance person has a very different mindset than a security person, who has a different mindset than a marketing person, than a procurement person, than a governance person, and so on. So, and rightfully so, right? Because marketing people, for example, they have they get different training, they have different priorities, they get rewarded differently. So they'll be focused on marketing stuff. Now, it'd be really good. Yes, you have this similar, this shared discipline agile mindset, but we then extend this mindset with philosophies that are specific to working in an effective marketing manner for the marketing folks. We have the same thing. We have a set of philosophies that are pertinent to security, to finance, to data management, and so on. So the different process blades, the process areas within DA, each of them have a set of philosophies that's specific to that area. So why is this important? Well, first of all, it's reality. And so I'm a firm believer in talking about reality rather than wishful thinking, right? So when I say process area, each one of those hexes is a process area or a process blade, right? So the legal folks come to the table with different mindset than the software folks, for example. So the idea is if I'm a coach and I'm trying to help a software team work together more effectively with the procurement team, I need to understand, well, what are these software people up to? What are these procurement people up to? How do they think? What are their priorities? What's their language? How can I help these two different teams to negotiate, to first of all, talk with each other and understand that the current way that they're collaborating isn't as effective as it can be. And if only they both decide to change their way of working together and experiment with a new way of working and then see if it works for them, that's the only way we're ever going to improve the collaboration between these two teams, right? So instead of pointing fingers at people, which is what most people do, right? It's like, well, we want to be as agile. Earlier we showed me, talking about the engine, putting in the tractor, right? So it's really easy for me to say, we're a really good agile software development team. We're totally awesome. Those procurement people over there, they're no good. They don't know what they're doing. They're slow, useless bureaucrats, blah, blah, blah. They're wrong. I'm right. If only they could learn how to do Scrum, things would be so much better, right? That's really easy to do, but it's not effective, right? So what I instead need to do is say, you know what? I need to work more effectively with those procurement people. Let's have a conversation with them. Let's talk. But to do that, I need to respect them. I need to understand their language. I need to understand their mindset. What are their priorities? Because the procurement people, they're very worried about spending the money wisely. They have fiduciary responsibilities to the organization. They're typically serious about that. I hope. Otherwise, you got another problem, a totally different problem then. But anyways, so they come to the table with a very different mindset than my Agile team, my Agile software team, right? So we got to work together, right? And then we got to identify new ways of potentially working together. So that's why we have the various process plays to begin with, because if I don't know, in this case, vendor management, like procurement is an aspect of vendor management, I need to have a handle on what they do for a living, why they do it, how they do it, and I also need, as a coach, and also what the potential options are, plus their mindset, to have an intelligent conversation with them. Otherwise, they're going to ignore me, right? Why would the procurement people talk with an Agile coach? Because I'm so awesome? No, like, they don't care. They just, because they're going to listen to me, and I'll be blah, 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 Scrum, mindset, big group hug every day, all that sort of stuff. And then the procurement go, what the hell? I gotta negotiate contracts, and this idiot is talking about a daily stand-up meeting. Nice talking to you, bozo. And that's the end of the conversation. And then our coaches wonder why. Well, why aren't we getting Agile out of the software teams? Because you don't know how to talk to the non-software teams. Simple as that. And it's a totally different conversation. Like talking with the finance people, very different than talking with the security people. It is, right? You know that. We all know that. So we if I want to be an effective coach, I got to step up. I got to step up and learn this stuff. And it's not just about teaching people Scrum. Who cares?
I want to ask a question in that part. For example, I saw a different case in about business agility. When they start with their transformation Scrum and then they try to scaling up, they create more teams and then they focused teams of teams. And then their goal is to be business agility or to achieve their business agility journey, create more teams. Last week I discussed with my friends, and he was head of agile transformation, and his CEO said him create more team to be more agile. And some teams understand it with different way. For example, the other case which I saw, they try to be agile in their procurement team, marketing team, but they are trying to directly focus, create Scrum team in their marketing silo or procurement silo. Yeah, if we create some Scrum team in that marketing silo, yeah, we can be agile in our marketing agile, or we are going with marketing agile way. So my question is, what does business agility mean, and how can we compare whole that different things and a whole company? And a lot of people using business agility, enterprise agility, organizational agility. Are they the same things? My question is this.
Yeah, so it depends on who you talk to, right? But I tend to use the terms enterprise agility and business agility interchangeably. I prefer enterprise agility because government agencies, for example, aren't businesses that, the term business agility or business in general doesn't make a lot of sense in that space. So it really is about enterprise agility. And some people have worried about nuances, and I don't have any patience for those conversations. It's like, number of angels dancing ahead of a pen. Good for you. Go away. But anyway, so but it's really all about, do you understand the environment that you're in? Can you sense and respond, right? Do you know what's going on around you? Can you respond accurately or appropriately to what's going on? Can you react to changes in the marketplace or changes in the ecosystem? That's really what at the enterprise, at the organizational level, right? And so the implication there is that I like to look at, I like to use the metaphor of a fleet of ships, right? An organization is really a fleet of ships, and you're only a fleet if you're pretty much going in the same direction, right? For those of you who live on the water, you can look out the window and you can see the bay or see the ocean or whatever it is, and there's like boats going all over the place. That's not a fleet. That's just a bunch of boats. You want a fleet, right? You want to be able to go and attack something and do whatever fleets do. So and they're being guided, and the fleet does its thing and it moves around, and they're working together to achieve a larger goal that a bunch of boats couldn't achieve on their own. So business agility is basically operating like to use the metaphor, to operate like a fleet, where you can direct the right different groups, different ships in the fleet to do certain things, and the fleet's going on and is working together to get the job done. So, and can you respond appropriately? Do you understand what's going on? Can you respond appropriately? So the implication is that you got to be willing to collaborate. There's got to be some sort of commonality, right? We identify ourselves as this fleet. We're willing to work together. We're willing to go in the direction the fleet has decided to go in. We're willing to do certain, to collaborate together to achieve certain tasks. And hopefully we agreed to learn together and to improve together to become a more effective fleet. So that's the basic idea. And so team agility by itself is good, but it's really, does the entire enterprise work together? Because the problem is, to go back to the boat analogy, if we have two speedboats, we can go by ourselves, we can go around and have a lot of fun. But if we tie those boats together and you try to go in that direction, I try to go in that direction, we can both rev our motors, but we're not going to go anywhere because we're fighting against each other, right? But the two boats together, we could pull something really heavy. We could, pull another boat, or pull pull something off the shore that neither one of us could have pulled off, on our own. So that's really what we're getting at. And I think, but the challenge is to, operate a fleet, to, convince the fleet to go in the same direction, all that sort of stuff. That requires good management. It requires good leadership, I should say. And do you have that as an organization? Do you have the discipline as a separate boat to work with the other boats? Because it's a heck of a lot of fun. Just I got my little speed boat and I can go off and water ski and stuff like that. That's a lot of fun. Not quite as much fun as working together with the other boats to do something of value.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Aaron, maybe at this point we can ask where to start. As an organization, we want to go in this journey, but from where to start? Should we have a DA coach to talk with the top management, or should we just self-organize and do our things on our own? Scott, what do you recommend? What is your...
Before that question I want to add some small point. In that point, a lot of companies starting with the team level and they spend their months with the team level. Do you suggest it, or do we need to start with different way?
Yeah, so great question. So our approach, it literally is start where you are. So whatever you're doing today, so if you started with a few teams, great, that's where you are. If you started trying to do the entire organization and you've run into trouble, okay, great, that's where you are. So we on PMI.org at the Discipline Agile in the Discipline Agile Hub part of the site, we have a series of articles around organizational transformation. And we're actually just like next week on Thursday, we will be publishing a new version of that. Like an update. We're publishing it now, but it'll be done by next Thursday, and Thursday, June 29th. So basically, we suggest a 3-step at a high level. We suggest a 3-step improvement process. The first step is to align. Figure out where you are, because our advice is to start where you are, but that's only good advice if you actually know where you are. And you'd think you wouldn't have to say that, but you do. So you got to get your act together, right? So you're going to have to maybe do a little bit of an assessment, and that could be just a conversation between a few people that know what they're doing, or maybe it's a full-fledged, somebody comes in from the outside and does an assessment, or anywhere in between. But figure out where you are and where you want to go. Because it's not just about zooming all over the harbor. It's really the fleet needs to figure out what direction it's actually wants to go in, and then depending on what your situation actually is, then you need to identify, well, what roadmap do we need? A lot of people are always looking for an easy answer, and there just isn't one. There isn't, right? So some people, they got a little snake diagram to sell you a bunch of training and stuff like that. Fine, like it looks good and it looks easy, but it might not be the right roadmap for you, right? So in DA, what we do is we say, well, first of all, figure out where you are, where you want to go, and then pick the right route to get from point A to point B. So if you're an existing Scrum shop, for example, your improvement strategy will reflect the fact that you're an existing Scrum shop. If you have never adopted Agile before, you're brand new to Agile, you need a different roadmap. I think that's blatantly obvious. Yet most people say, well, just tell me the one way of doing things. Well, there isn't, because I don't know you. I don't know where your starting point is. I don't know what you want to achieve, really, right? If you're an existing safe shop, that's a different strategy again, right? Because now we're improving, you're doing safe. I got a pretty good handle on what the challenges are with that. So we can give you some plays. Here's different ways to improve safe to help you break out of the safe trap, or, the safe way of working, or less, or whatever else. Or you might be really agile in your IT organization, but the other groups like procurement, marketing, and finance, they're still struggling. So you don't need to transform IT. They've already done that, but you do need to transform finance and marketing and the others. So then you need business area specific ways of doing that, because the strategy to improve finance will be different than the strategy to improve marketing. It's not just, well, you're going to drop in Scrum and hope for the best. Good luck, right? So it's like, no, I gotta help the finance people in a way that reflects the realities of finance, and the marketing people in the ways that reflect the realities of marketing. It is what it is, right? So, but having said all that, so you can have different improvement paths depending on where you started. But I hope that the overall destination should be to become a learning organization. So that's step 3. So what we do in DA, we teach you how to thrive. We teach you how to learn, how to improve. So it's not just about, your Agile transformation should not be about, I just want to adopt Scrum, or I just want to adopt Kanban, or less, or safe, or whatever, right? That might be part of the journey, but that's not the end goal. Becoming a Scrum shop is not your end goal. Becoming a safe shop should not be your end goal, right? Becoming a learning organization that can always get better, that can always improve. That, learning how to learn and learning how to improve, that's what your real goal should be, right? So, and that's what we teach you in DA with techniques like guided continuous improvement, for example. So, but we got to get you there, right? Because you've got an immediate problem of, what we're doing is currently a mess. So maybe adopting safe right now is your best bet, but that's not your end goal, right? You got to keep moving. You got to keep going. And that's the hard message. These transformations, they're a multi-year journey. It's not a destination, it's a multi-year journey. And so our destination point, thriving, is really the acceptance that you're on a journey, and we've actually learned how to drive the fleet, basically, or admiral the fleet, or whatever you call it. So that's a big difference than just let's install Scrum, or let's install less. All those things are steps. At best, they're steps, but they're not the whole journey. So that's what we suggest, right? So start where you are, do what you need to do. Pick a context appropriate, like a fit for purpose improvement strategy that makes sense for you based on where you currently are, and then aiming, knowing that you're aiming to become a learning organization. Because that's, that's what the Amazons of the world are doing, and the Googles of the world are doing, the eBays. There's nothing special about Amazon other than the fact they choose to be competitive. They choose to improve. So they've been on this, they've been a learning organization for a couple of decades now. They've been constantly improving, and they still improve. Today, they're experimenting with new ways of working that will help them to become more competitive and more effective, because they're deathly afraid of somebody catching up to them. So they will always be improving. So yeah, this transformation stuff really is a journey. It's not a destination.
Perfect. Maybe you answered it, but I want to underline it. What does it mean? Because a lot of companies confused about that part. They are saying, yeah, we complete our agile transformation. But how do you define agile transformation, and which step can we say, yeah, we complete our transformation, or can we do that? Can we say this?
Yeah, so it'll never be complete. That's the So anybody telling you they completed the transformation has not made a transformation. They've made an adoption. Maybe they adopted Scrum. Maybe they adopted less. Good for them. That's probably an improvement over what they're doing, or what they were doing. But it's not the final destination. It's a journey. You got to accept the fact that it's a journey. And this is hard for anybody with a project mindset. The project mindset is fundamentally flawed when it comes to transformations. It's just, you can do one of the steps you do might be a project. Okay, fair. But if you think you're doing a transformation project, you have totally gotten it wrong. It's completely wrong. You're just not doing it. Sorry. Even if it's, and this is like for Agile transformation, but even for like digital transformations, that's a never-ending journey. I am sorry. If you think you can do a digital transformation as a project, I would love to know what drugs you're taking, because they must be really good.
But
they must be really good.
But this is the most advertised part as poetry. This transformation did a lot of good things. A lot of companies advertise about it.
So if you're a consulting company it's hard to pitch the truth. Like nobody wants to hear you're on a multi-year journey. You've got to learn how to you've got to become competent. You got to know what you're doing. You got to learn how to improve. You got to do all this hard work, and it's never going to end. That is really hard to pitch. It is, right? But what is easy to pitch is, yeah, we can do this in 9 months. We'll get something done. Oh, and by the time you hit the 9-month point, and it's a project, so it's late and over budget, and then you realize, oh, wait a minute, crap, this is really a journey, or this was one of several projects. So then I can sell. How do you eat an elephant? You one bite at a time, right? So I sell you a short-term transformation project, and then magically we discover that it takes more than whatever we sold you. Oh, I can sell you the next round because we were successful in the first round. And I sell you another one and another one and another one. And then 6 years later, I'm still in there selling you a transformation project. Yeah. So I've taken you on a journey and fooled you into thinking that it's projects when it really wasn't. But that's what you were able to fund, and that's what you could get your head wrapped around. And eventually you learn, right? And eventually you're like, crap, this really isn't a project. How about that? And hopefully you learn. If not, then I just keep selling you new projects with all the overhead and risk associated with that.
Yeah.
In there, maybe I have a different question about project management. In a lot of agile transformation journey, we are seeing they disrupt project management offices when they start their transformation journey, because they are saying, yeah, project management offices affect our agility. And as I see in Scrum at Scale less, there is no any project management office. Also in SAFe framework, we can see Agile Program Management Office. But in DA, how can we put project management offices, and how can they help to our transformation, also whole company's agility?
Yeah. So if you could bring up that slide with the big blue dots, the various life cycles.
Which one?
That slide. Yeah. Not that one, but there we go. Yeah. So the message here on this slide. So these are 8 life cycles that, 6 of them we currently support, and 2 of them which are a work in progress. But say it was a few months from now when we've actually got all 8. So that doesn't matter. We got multiple ones. So 2 of the 8 are project life cycles. 2. So if you're a project management office, you're only overseeing a portion of the work in the organization. So you got an issue there. So what I would suggest, and I have suggested, I've got recorded presentations of this kicking around somewhere, is you really evolve your PMO to become a value delivery office. And where, yes, some of the work is projects, because projects make sense in some situations, don't get me wrong. In other situations, they're absolutely foolish. For example, your project management office isn't a project, right? Not a project. It's a long-running team. It's been going on for years. Pardon me?
Say it again. Our project management office is...
A project management office is not organized as a project.
Okay.
It's a long-standing team which gets multi-year funding. Right?
Yeah.
So, reality. I'm a reality type of guy. I prefer to talk about reality. Observable reality, if you choose to observe, and few people do, observable reality is that some of the work in your organization is organized as projects. Some of the work in your organization is organized as not projects. And the project management office falls into that category. Your support desk work falls into that category. Much of your work, almost all the work of executives fall into that category. A lot of the work in organizations has nothing to do with projects. And that's fine, right? So let's organize the work in the best way appropriate for the work. Let's focus on delivering value, not just managing value. So some people talk about value management offices, and that's certainly better than talking about project management offices. But I prefer to talk about value delivery offices. Let's focus on the ongoing delivery of value, and let's do it in the best way possible. Sometimes that's as a project. There's little chunks of work that makes sense to do as a project. Sometimes that's as a long-standing team. Most software efforts, by the way, make sense to do as a long-standing product team, not as a short-term project team, because the software systems that you use have a lifespan that goes far beyond projects. So funding and organizing the work in terms of projects for something that has a life cycle that is much longer than projects is questionable at best. It's overhead, it's risk, it's cost. Just like it would be absolutely foolish to organize the work of your project management office as a project, because that's long-term, ongoing, important work. You don't organize other things that fall in that same category as a project. So what happens is in DA, we choose to observe, we choose to embrace a range of working, like a wide, options, not just one way. Here's the one best practice. So what happens is when you go to adopt a framework, if that framework or method doesn't involve projects, then there's not a lot of room for the project management office to actually add real value there, right? So if SAFe doesn't involve a project management office, or it doesn't call out a project management office, because for many reasons, or Scrum certainly doesn't, or Less certainly doesn't, you got a problem. So yeah, they consider a PMO to be a problem, and they usually are. Whereas in DA, our view is, well, wait a minute, why don't we help the PMO evolve into something that can be more effective? Let's help the existing PMO, because start where you are, right? That's our philosophy. Start where you are. So if you're currently have a PMO today and you're working in a PMO, doing whatever it is you're doing, great. Let's improve from there. More than likely, let's evolve into a value delivery office, because if you're only focusing on projects, as I think this, and arguably Serial is a project, so maybe 3 of the 8 are project things. Most programs are not projects, regardless of all the rhetoric around that. Let's put you in a position where you can actually add real value in your organization now that goes far beyond projects. Why wouldn't you want to do that, right? So this is an ongoing challenge. So I would invite the PMOs, the PMO leaders among us, to step back and to have a really hard conversation, and to choose to observe what's really going on in your organizations. And a really harsh question to ask is, are you inflicting a project mindset onto situations where a project mindset doesn't really make a lot of sense? And that's a hard thing for project managers to do. And so when you get pushback, so here's a better way of looking at it. When you get pushback from the Agile folks saying, well, you're not adding value, it's not a project, it's not this, it's not that, there's no need for project managers, sit back and listen to that and ask yourself, well, wait a minute, if I can't add value as a project manager for whatever reason, or if I can't add value forcing them to do projects, how can I change my behavior to reflect reality on the ground to add value to them? Because you can do that. You can do that, right? But you've got to choose to evolve. You've got to choose to improve. And DA can help with that. But until you choose to improve, it's going to be a hard slog for you.
Yeah,
probably not the answer we're looking for. But anyway, reality on the ground, right?
Yeah, it's like, yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
So if our attendees have any question, we can ask. We have 8 minutes.
There is one, Eren.
Is that a question or a suggestion? Maybe.
Yeah, sort of a question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about
okay, yeah. So
budgeting? Yeah.
So I get this question. I love this. I've actually got a finance background, this is a great question. So it tells you, okay, so if the issue is that your finance department, the CFO, the finance group, whatever you call that, if they only fund projects, that's a problem. First of all, it's absolutely not true, because once again, the finance department is not a project, right? So they somehow get funding. The operations folks, not a project for the most part. Most of their work is not project stuff. They get funding. So I would call, first of all, I would say whoever's asking this, whatever story you're being told that they only fund projects, absolutely observably not true in your organization. I know nothing about your organization, but I know that's a lie. So start there. The second thing, now don't say it like that usually, but that's basically it, right? You're being lied to. Second, most likely by the PMO. Second, realize that it is in fact possible to fund things that are not projects, because they are in fact doing it. So what you want to do is, and this is a basic finance thing, I want to align the funding of an initiative with the initiative, with the risk and all that good sort of stuff. So if I've got a team that is long running, I fund it that way. So how is the finance team being funded? Well, they get funding for X number of people to be in the finance group every year, right? And maybe once a year they got to ask for more funding, or they probably just fund themselves. But anyway, so it's a bad example. But anyway, how is the security team funded? Well, they've got funding for 6 people, right? If they realize they don't have enough capacity, they go hat in hand, they ask for more funding. But that's ongoing funding. It's not project funding. That's just ongoing funding. So it is in fact possible to do this. So choose to observe that it is in fact happening, and choose to observe that, well, wait a minute, Finance 101 tells you your funding should match the work that's being done. So if you've got an ongoing running thing, you fund it that way. If I actually have a project and it makes sense to do a project, I would fund the project accordingly, right? But this gets back to if you've only got a project management office, then they only think in terms of projects. So how many efforts have you injected cost and risk into because you can only deal with projects? Right? This is why a lot of the IT community is pushing back hard against project management right now, because most of the work in IT, at least particularly development and ongoing operations, that has nothing to do with projects. Nothing to do with projects. And certainly most product development has nothing to do with projects. Or at least it shouldn't. So do it right. Right.
Perfect.
So yeah. So you got to improve. Choose to improve. Right. Choose to observe. Choose to get better. So it might take you a couple of years to evolve your PMO. Fair enough. Right. It's a hard effort.
Yes.
I want to share my comments about that part. When I learned DA, for example, it was 6 different life cycles, and we are seeing now 8 different. My comment is, for example, if we work with direct the Scrum guide, it's a 13-page, and to memorize it is very easy. And maybe if I see any challenge, maybe I want to wait 2 or 3 more years to find another new thing. But in there, you are developing it in monthly or weekly. I don't know which period do you develop it. And what do you say about that DA browser? You are developing it, and how can it affect our transformation?
Yeah, so that's a good question. One, which is basically the last Thursday of the quarter. So in this case, June 29th, we're doing the 5.6 release. So that's what we call the official release. So we're basically doing a 3-month batch of changes, particularly to the process goal diagrams and the metadata behind it. But on any given day, we could be up, because the toolkit is described in 2 aspects. What's in the DA browser, which is where all the details of the options are, of the different techniques and stuff like that, and all the web pages on the website. So the website is effectively our version of the PMBOK guide. When it gets down to, well, it's more, we've got way more material, but it's bigger. But okay, it doesn't matter, right? It's published on the web. And because we publish on the web, we can go and change a web page today. Well, actually today we did, right? So every day, any given day, chances are pretty good 2 or 3 pages are going to get updated. Either sometimes it's adding a brand new page, sometimes it's updating existing material, sometimes it's like just a fixing a spelling of a word or something. I don't really count that as an update, but when real material changes, we'll have material changes on a daily basis, plus the big releases. So, for example, we'll release articles throughout the quarter, and then at the end of the quarter, when we release the material in the browser, part of that release is we're referring to the articles that we published throughout the quarter, plus a bunch of other stuff too. But yeah, so we're going to be flat. For example, on Thursday we will be publishing the details behind the transformation blade, and that'll be 50 techniques maybe in the process goal. So the process goal diagram will appear with 50 techniques fleshed out. I don't know what the exact number is, but it's 50-ish.
And do we need to memorize it, or I think?
I can't memorize. No.
No, I don't think so.
There's like 1,700 techniques right now. Probably more. Actually, that's probably closer to 1,800 because 1,700 is an old number. But no. All I can do. I'm working with it all the time. All I can do is hopefully remember. I think we've got something there, probably around here. I better search for it. So I go to the search facility and search and hit it. But yeah, I can't remember all that stuff. No way.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So guys,
it would be several thousand printed pages. I don't even know how many. Yeah, easily several thousand printed pages. So no, I don't have it memorized. No way.
I think it's time to conclude our conversation, and I just quickly think about what are the takeaways me taking with me. I see that Agile totally changes with the organization's reality. It shows us the way. It shows us how we can navigate through the uncertainty. This fleet example was today one of the best takeaways I taking with me today, and I think this is what can I say as a conclusion. And thank you, Scott, for being with us today and clearing our path to Agile, discipline Agile way. So great, so honored to host you here. Thank you.
Once again, thank you for inviting me, and everybody, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to be here or watch the video afterwards, as the case may be. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Scott. And in next week, I think, Emrah, we will discuss life cycles. And Scott, we are discussing new topics in a weekly. And we will invite another, for example, next week, life cycles. And then maybe we can go more deep in DA browser. Maybe we can invite you in next month. So
definitely
to attend with us.
Oh, great.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So see you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Is that Agile software teams are really good at building awesome race car engines. We're good at tweaking Agile. We're good at tweaking Agile software development. We got a lot of great ideas. We can, keep the engine analogy going. We can, get better fuel mileage. We can become more performant. We can speed things up. We're phenomenally good at this. So we got a bunch of really bright people optimizing software development. I think that's a very good thing, actually. But unfortunately, we take these awesome race car engines that we're building, these awesome Agile software development teams, and we put them in organizational tractors. We put them in these legacy organizations with legacy systems and legacy mindsets and legacy management and legacy governance. And we've got these awesome race car engines in these tractors, and that's a big surprise when we don't win the race.
Where does architecture fit in? Because they're still of the mindset that the architect has got to do all that stuff before anything happens.
Yeah, no, so it fits in all through the life cycle. Okay. And so one of the things we did in the workshop yesterday was we tried to answer three questions.
Okay.
The first one was how do we do architecture at the beginning of a project or initiating a team? How do we bring architecture skills into the team?
Okay.
And how do we evolve the architecture over time?
Okay.
And what we did in the exercises was I basically gave them several options and we compared and contrasted them.
Okay.
And the short story is it depends.
We also, and it's not pure Agile either. It's more of a pragmatic, agnostic Agile, where we take great techniques from a wide range of sources, from Scrum and Safe and Agile modeling, and extreme programming, and Agile data, and even the PMBOK guide. I don't know if you're familiar with that at all.
I am.
And yeah, you've heard of it, yeah, okay. And we take, because there's some great ideas there. And what we do is we put them into context. So instead of pitching things as best practices, we instead talk about how all practices and techniques have advantages and disadvantages. They work well in some situations, and they're phenomenally bad ideas in others.